What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. I see quite often in the comments people questioning why I use a prong collar. Some people are just genuinely curious. Other people think it's a torture device. And let's be real, it doesn't look like the most friendly thing in the world, right? But I promise you, this is not intended to harm your Cane Corso. It's actually quite humane and a very effective communication and training tool that you can use in your arsenal to better communicate with your puppy dog. And actually, it's not only humane, it's much safer than something such as a choke collar. And you may be wondering, how is this scary looking device safer than something like a choke collar? I'm gonna let you know right after you subscribe to the channel, smash that like button, ring my ding-a-ling so you don't miss any of the newest videos on Cane Corsos or Bruce Wayne. And he's not even paying attention to you guys today. He just wants to play. Before we get into the video, just comment down below if you've ever used a prong collar or e-collar to train your dog. And if you never have, why so? Do you feel that they're inhumane just because they're scary looking, and a lot of misinformation out there about them? So why is a prong collar more humane than a choke collar? Essentially, a choke collar or slip collar is this, right? So if this was a choke collar, it's around the dog and it chokes. And what it's gonna do is when the dog pulls, it tightens. But what it does is it tightens right along the dog's trachea. And that can cause permanent, lifetime, massive damage to your dog, which obviously we're not looking to. So again, it puts all the force on their trachea. It doesn't put it up here at all. You have all this space up here, all this empty space. I don't know if you can see it or not. A prong collar distributes the force evenly. I don't want to put it on because I don't want him to think he's being corrected if I pull on it. When you give your dog a correction with a prong collar, it basically, a collar pop, it evenly distributes across all of these teeth around his neck. So there's not force, so there's no force on his trachea. It's evenly distributed around his neck. How many of you guys have either used a choke collar or seen a dog on a choke collar and it just doesn't care? They will literally choke themselves out, doing a bunch of damage to their trachea. They just don't care. They will keep pulling and tugging. It's not a natural type correction like this would feel to the dog. This would feel more natural to the dog. And it is hot outside today, guys. Apologies for having to listen to Bruce Wayne pant the whole time. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy. So if we look at wolves or Cane Corso puppies with their mom, how are they typically corrected? Typically the mom will bite them. The mom will bite their neck, and it's not biting them to do damage. It's not biting them to hurt them. It's like, hey, no, I don't want you doing that. Essentially, that's what this mimics. Now these are not sharp at all. They're not meant to cut or do any damage to the dog. So essentially a prong collar is a very good way to communicate like a mom would communicate to her puppies. If your Cane Corso is not doing what you're asking of them or doing something wrong, quick collar pop to correct them, and then they're good to go. Now until you have your proper leadership skills down, understand how to communicate with your dog, I do not suggest using a prong collar or any training device like this. You first need to prove to yourself you're a calm, consistent leader. I see far too many people in public not understanding how to handle their dog. Bruce Wayne was attacked by a dog 2 nights ago, and I have this on video. The way the owner handled the dog, you can tell he has no leadership ability whatsoever. I have it all on video, and actually the prong collar was on Bruce, and my wife misused it just out of pure shock and instinct. She didn't mean to. I can go through a video showing you guys the footage of him getting attacked, show you what she did wrong with the prong collar, and how she should have approached the situation. It was just one of those instant things out of nowhere. She didn't see it coming. She should have been paying more attention. I'm not trashing my wife at all, guys. But if you guys want to see a separate video on that, then let me know and I'll do one. I'll put one together for you guys. But if you want to better educate yourself on how to be a proper leader, how to communicate with your dog like I do Bruce Wayne, to get your dog on Bruce Wayne's level so he's this obedient and, you know, sits next to you while you do videos the whole time, patiently waiting to go play. Check out the links in the description box, guys. There's a bunch of courses down there. The world's leading canine behavioralist, Will from Fenrir Canine Show, put them together. There is a puppy training course, guys. There is a canine boot camp course that he did. There's a raw feeding course that I did with Will. Then we have all 3 of those bundled with the Ultimate Cane Corso guide. I did that one, and it's more detailed on how I train Bruce you know, more specifics, because Cane Corsos are a very sensitive breed. They do have a lot of quirks. So that's all bundled together. I highly, highly recommend that to educate yourself, guys, to be a better leader with your dog, up your communication with your dog. You will not be disappointed, I promise you guys. And guess what? Save 10% if you use code Jason. 10%, Bruce Wayne. They can save 10% to be like you. Yeah, they can have a Cane Corso just like you. And Will uses the same exact philosophies that I use training Bruce. Sorry to tangent, I just don't feel like somebody should be using one of these guys or an e-collar or anything like that without first being a proper leader to your dog. I just am highly against it. I'm very for these as long as you know what you're doing. So never abuse your prong collar. It's either yes or no. There's no gray area when using one of these. No pressure, right? Yes. You're doing good. We can go on a walk, no pressure. The dog ends up veering off to get a squirrel. No. Now you have pressure on the dog, right? Now there's pressure. Again, evenly distributed around its neck. It's not gonna do damage to its trachea like a choke collar or slip collar is gonna. So pressure is no. And that's it. Yes or no. No gray area in between. Now the prong collar, there's many different types of these. I just have one that you have to put together yourself like this, and you can add other links to make them bigger or smaller. The prong collar should sit high on the dog's neck. So see how high that is in his neck? So it's sitting right there high in his neck. It's not too tight and it's not too loose. Now if it's slipping down like this, if it was sliding down his neck easily, oh good boy, you good boy, yes you are. If it was sliding down his neck, then obviously it's too loose. And you don't want that. You want to sit high, almost right behind the ears. Can you see that? Right about here is where you want to sit. And then we have this, which will tighten it if you give it a yank. And this is where you can grab one of these guys as well from Fenrir. Goes right in there, boom. And that is how you properly fit it. Again, you don't want it too loose, you don't want it too tight. And for all my Cane Corso owners out there, guys, if you have an adolescent Cane Corso, they grow very fast, and if they're like Bruce Wayne, if they miss a meal or two because their metabolism is so high, they lose weight fast. So there's many times I had to either remove a ring to make it smaller, only 2 days later to have to make it bigger again. So just really pay attention and be diligent in how it sits on your dog. Yeah, what you just want to go play, huh? You just bored sitting here? Well, our people need a video. They need an educational video. We get lots of questions why we're always using this prong collar, so we gotta tell them. So we started using a prong collar because Bruce Wayne was a puller. He did not care how much he was getting choked out by himself. He would just keep pulling and pulling and pulling. And all that does is cause damage to the trachea. I hope he doesn't have any damage from him pulling on himself. But that's why we used a prong collar. After we worked with a trainer and he wanted us to use this. Local trainer, he's amazing. He taught us how to properly use this thing. I still highly recommend him to everyone in the area that is looking for one-on-one dog training. Bruce Wayne and I had to change locations. Far too hot outside and it kept shutting my camera off. My camera's overheating. So Bruce Wayne's 3 years old and we still use this prong collar to this day. And I get a lot of people saying, well, if he's trained so well, then why are you still using the prong collar? And the answer to that is for safety. It doesn't matter how well he's trained. You never know what's gonna happen. So safety for the dog. Now, my wife is only 5'2", not even, very petite. So if the dog decided, and the prong collar's not on him, to chase a cat, chase a squirrel, chase a kid, chase somebody in their bike, do you really think she's gonna be able to control him and hold him? Absolutely not. Therefore, the dog could hurt someone, the dog could hurt another animal, the dog could run in the road and get hit by a car. So safety, guys, is the reason that I still use it. You always have to be concerned for your dog's safety. Prong collar, e-collar, they're very, very good tools to use, guys. I hope this clears up a little bit by why we use a prong collar, why we continue to use a prong collar, and why will we always use some sort of device like this in the future moving forward. I feel the same way about e-collars that I do prong collars. They are great training tools, and I'd actually like to train Bruce with an e-collar because it's even easier to do training at a distance with an e-collar. I can only train him if he's within arm's reach of the leash, for example. Meaning if he's 100 feet away, it's much more difficult to train him and get him to what I want to do with a prong collar versus an e-collar, for example. Now, I've never used an e-collar. If I used one with Bruce, I'd first have to train myself how to use one. The principles are the same. All right, guys, on your way out, just make sure to do all the things. Subscribe, like, ring the ding-a-lings, and until next time, peace.